Chosen one, hear this with the deepest place of your spirit. Because what is unfolding in this moment is not random, not coincidental, not the byproduct of scrolling or curiosity. This moment has been summoned by the throne of heaven with precision, with intentionality, with divine calculation. And what you are about to receive is not a recycled word, not a familiar tune, not an echo from yesterday. It is a fresh decree released in the unseen realm directly into your timeline. And the only reason your attention paused right here is because heaven interrupted your path to deliver a message that carries the weight of your next chapter, the authority of your calling, and the clarity your soul has been craving. And as your spirit receives this, understand something with absolute certainty. Your life has reached the threshold where remaining the same is no longer spiritually permissible, where the old version of you cannot cross forward, where the patterns that once attached themselves to you no longer have permission to continue, and the discomfort you've been feeling, the heaviness sitting on your chest, the strange tension in your soul, the uneasiness that you haven't been able to articulate. None of it has been accidental. All of it has been a divine indicator that you are standing inside the space between who you were and who heaven is commanding you to become. And this transition is so serious, so sacred, so prophetically charged that the atmosphere around your life has been shifting even before your awareness caught up to it. Because God has been positioning, preparing, and protecting the next phase of your story long before you felt its arrival. And chosen one, what I'm about to reveal will awaken something in you that has been silent for too long. Because your spirit has been waiting for this confirmation. You have not been under attack because you were weak. You have been under attack because you carry an assignment that intimidates darkness. Because your destiny carries weight. Because your presence carries authority. Because what you are called to release into this world has spiritual implications that the enemy recognized long before you did. And so the enemy did not wage war against your circumstances first. He waged war against your identity. Because if he could distort how you saw yourself, he could delay the manifestation of what heaven ordained for you. And that is why confusion visited you, discouragement whispered to you, comparison wrapped itself around your vision, exhaustion crept into your calling, and fear tried to torment your future, not because you were failing, but because you were nearing the moment where heaven would activate everything inside you that hell has tried to suppress: your clarity, your authority, your discernment, your confidence, your faith, your voice, your anointing. And chosen one, understand this with certainty. People who do not carry destiny do not attract spiritual warfare. People with no future do not attract resistance. People with no calling do not attract sabotage. And the battles you fought were not signs that God forgot you. They were signs that you were being shaped for an assignment that required strength, resilience, and spiritual maturity. And now heaven says, the season you walked through, the silence, the loneliness, the delays, the unanswered prayers, the emotional weight, the unfair experiences was not a punishment, not a rejection, not abandonment, but divine training tailor-made to construct a version of you that can handle the weight of what is coming next. Because heaven does not elevate someone who is easily manipulated by validation, controlled by insecurity, distracted by noise, or weakened by disappointment. No. Heaven elevates those who have been refined in fire, strengthened in obscurity, disciplined in waiting, sharpened in adversity, and anchored by faith even when faith felt fragile. And you, chosen one, have endured storms that others wouldn't have survived. walked through valleys that others would have collapsed in, stood in battles that were designed to break you. But you did not break, you bent. You shook. You cried. You wrestled. But you did not surrender your spirit. And that alone is the evidence heaven needed to authorize your next chapter. And now listen carefully, because this is the part your soul has been waiting for. The reason certain people left your life, the reason certain relationships crumbled, the reason certain doors closed so forcefully it felt personal. The reason God allowed certain connections to dissolve was not because you were unworthy or unimportant, but because their presence could not go with you into where heaven is taking you, because their energy, their mindset, their intentions, their limitations would have conflicted with the identity God is establishing in you now. And heaven knew that if certain people stayed, their influence would have contaminated your clarity, polluted your purpose, or restricted your growth. So God removed them not to hurt you, but to protect you, not to decrease your life, but to preserve your elevation. And the loneliness you felt was not abandonment. It was separation, for consecration, because your calling required sacred isolation. And chosen one, the emotional turbulence you've been feeling, the restlessness, the internal stretching, the urge to detach from what no longer aligns with your spirit, the sudden intolerance for drama, chaos, or shallow connections is not depression. It is spiritual maturation, the shedding of an outdated identity, the expansion of a calling that no longer fits inside the environments you used to tolerate. And heaven wants you to understand that this agitation inside of you is divine evidence that your spirit has outgrown your old season. And when a chosen one outgrows a season, nothing in that season feels comfortable anymore. Nothing feels fulfilling. Nothing feels aligned. And heaven uses this discomfort to push you forward. And now the breakthrough revelation. The reason the warfare intensified recently. The reason conflicts arose out of nowhere. The reason confusion tried to cloud your clarity. The reason you felt drained without explanation is because you are crossing into the chapter. The enemy feared the most your appointed moment, your activated identity, your anointed assignment, and the enemy always releases his strongest resistance before God releases his strongest elevation. And the pressure surrounding your life has been the indicator that heaven is shifting you into a dimension, not a season, a dimension of authority, alignment, wisdom, influence, and spiritual strength. And chosen one, heaven is not just opening a door for you. Heaven is opening a realm, a place where you no longer chase purpose but walk in it, where you no longer question your value but embody it, where you no longer shrink your identity to fit small environments but expand into the fullness of who God called you to be, where your discernment becomes sharp, your decisions become aligned, your boundaries become firm, your standards become elevated, and your spirit becomes anchored. And now hear this clearly. The emotional exhaustion you felt was not weakness. It was labor pains, because your spirit was birthing a new version of you. And birth always comes with pressure, contractions, and discomfort. But it never comes without promise. And the promise attached to your life is now maturing, now aligning, now manifesting. And heaven declares that every moment of endurance, every silent prayer, every tear shed in private, every act of obedience, every time you held on to faith when faith felt impossible, all of it has been collected as evidence that you are ready for the release heaven has been preparing for you. And chosen one, the release is not coming. It has begun. The shift is not approaching. It is unfolding. The breakthrough is not near. It is active. And God is now orchestrating alignments, opportunities, connections, resources, clarity, and favor with such precision that your next steps will feel guided. Your decisions will feel illuminated. Your path will feel supported. And the timing will feel supernatural. And listen carefully, because this is a prophetic confirmation. The confusion is lifting. The fog is clearing. The spiritual resistance is breaking. And the emotional heaviness is dissolving, because you are entering the chapter where everything begins to make sense, where what once felt delayed now reveals itself as divine timing, where what once felt like silence now reveals itself as strategy, where what once felt like loss now reveals itself as protection, and where what once felt like emptiness now reveals itself as preparation. And chosen one, heaven wants you to recognize that the internal shift you've been sensing, the sudden rise of strength inside you, the return of your focus, the awakening of your intuition, the sharpening of your discernment, the renewal of your hope, is not random. It is the signal that your old season has expired and your appointed season has arrived. A season where God publicly validates what you privately carried, where He elevates what you endured, where He rewards what you survived, where He reveals what He was building inside you the entire time. And heaven says you will now see acceleration where there was stagnation, clarity where there was confusion, opportunity where there was delay, favor where there was resistance, resources where there was lack, and open doors where there were walls. Because the spiritual gates assigned to restrict you are now being unlocked. The cycles that repeated in your life are now breaking. The chains that wrapped around your destiny are now falling. And the divine alignment that once felt distant is now entering your reality. And chosen one, this is the moment where heaven stops preparing you and starts presenting you, where God brings you into visibility, not for ego, but for purpose, not for applause, but for assignment. And what is coming next in your life will be so undeniable that even your enemies will recognize that God's hand is upon you. And as you step into this expansion, heaven says walk with humility, discernment, strength, discipline, and wisdom. For the version of you emerging now is not the same person who walked through the past chapters. This version of you is refined, anchored, awakened, aligned, stable, and spiritually equipped. And now here is the final decree sealed over your life. Nothing can stop what God has decided to release through you. Not fear, not doubt, not delay, not opposition, not your past, not your mistakes. Because heaven has declared that your appointed moment is now active, your elevation is now authorized, your breakthrough is now unfolding, and your destiny is now unlocking. And chosen one, this is not motivation. This is not encouragement. This is divine confirmation that heaven has shifted your trajectory and you are stepping into the most significant, powerful, destiny-defining chapter of your entire life. And nothing, no force, no person, no circumstance can deny what God has already decided in your favor.